Greetings, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar, How to Focus on Business Critical Applications and Enable Business Resiliency. My name is Elsbeth McSorley, and I'm the Marketing Manager for Mega North America, and I am thrilled to welcome you all today. Just a quick piece of housekeeping before we get started. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to put them in the little questions box in the GoToWebinar dashboard. We will answer everything, but we'll wait to the end of the presentation to get to the questions. But again, throughout the presentation, feel free to ask them, but we will answer all questions at the very end. Okay, so I'd like to introduce you to today's webinar speakers. We have two with you today. We have Daniel Karen, he is Mega's Sales Director, and we have Rashi Bhatnagar. She is Mega's Pre-Sales Engineer. So now I'm going to turn it over to Dan.
Thanks, Elsbeth. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You sound good.
All right, very good. Well, thanks everybody for being with us today. I'm excited to share with you this presentation. And we're going to talk about the methodology of how we address this issue. How do we keep you focused on business critical applications when we're dealing with the pandemic or other challenges? And we're going to talk about a little bit about the platform, and you'll see a demonstration as well. But first, I wanted to give you a little bit of context about who we are as a company. Mega has been around since 1991. We've always had a focus on enterprise architecture. We have a global presence through our subsidiaries and partner network, and we service thousands of customers and hundreds of thousands of users. We're also very proud of our analyst ranking. Forrester, we are proud to be a leader in their wave. Quadrant Knowledge Solutions actually has a new EA Spark Matrix, what they call that, and we are the leader, the #1 tool by far in that ranking. It's the first year that they've done a review of the EA space. We are also very proud of our ranking with the Gartner Group. 11 years in a row, and soon there'll be a new report out on Thursday. You can check that out on our website. But this is not something that there's just one analyst that likes us or we can rest on our laurels. Every year there's a new analyst, and we have to fight to maintain our status, our ranking in this quadrant. And I've been a part of that. You not only have to show that you're capable, but that you understand the market and their evolving needs. So it's very exciting for us to have 11 years and more now in the Leaders Quadrant. And most importantly, our favorite award is the Gartner Peer Insights. We were named in February of this year that we were a Gartner Peer Insights Customer Choice, which means our customers sounding off on our behalf. So it's not just the analysts that like us, it's our customers who we've been working with and demonstrating value that have given us this award. But today, we're here to talk about resiliency. And in this crisis, we have seen a tremendous response that in this challenging time, I've worked with customers that there was no way they could ever work from home. It's too secure. It would never happen. And suddenly, after this crisis, the business has evolved very quickly. And now they may never go back to working in the office in some cases. So it's very exciting to see what was possible. It was a very trying time, but it's a double-edged sword, because not only have we proven how powerful and responsive and valuable we can be, as you can see in this quote here, we've now demonstrated that we can do it. They're going to expect it again, not just in the next crisis, but the next business driver that changes things, the next opportunity to become a market leader. The executives are going to demand more from you. And that's something that there's going to be some organizational changes, hopefully to enable that, some updates to your portfolio so that you're more ready to react come the next major change. And hopefully that will mean faster time to market, greater responsiveness, and greater support for the business strategy. Now, today we're going to talk about how enterprise architecture methodologically is able to help in a situation like this. The first step is to create a baseline. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean having an exhaustive inventory of 100% of your artifacts and completely detailed architecture for everything in your portfolio. but it does mean that you have to do some proactive work, collecting this data, having it available for you, understanding the dependencies, the key dependencies, keeping focused on the right data. And I would argue it's even more important that we're focused on value add use cases. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. But for me, collecting all this data with no vision of what value it's going to provide or what are we going to use it for is putting the cart before the horse. We want you focused on valuable use cases like mitigating technical debt, working on app redundancy and rationalizing your portfolio, better application of standards to reduce your footprint and to make yourself more agile in the event of a crisis. These are proactive use cases that add value today and make you more ready for responding to changes rapidly in the future. So with those use cases, that gets you a great data set for you to start, Ryan, a great baseline view of your portfolio. So in the event of a crisis, we can help you analyze and focus and understand the impacts of change. Sometimes you're going to experience unexpected outages and you need to know what can you pivot to, what business units are impacted, what capabilities are going to suffer because of that. Maybe you need to make some changes and decommission or turn off some SaaS subscriptions that you can live without so that you can focus and realign resources to the most critical business applications. You can't make these decisions if you don't know what the impacts are, if you don't know the value of the applications, and most importantly, the capabilities that they are supporting. So if you're going to be able to address those near-term challenges, you're going to be able to do so that much faster if you have this baseline to work from. We also want to help you monitor resiliency. You have to keep your finger on the pulse of your portfolio and the critical business metrics and KPIs. So being able to pull in that information from operational systems to tie it to the key pieces of your key IT assets, key pieces of your architecture, that's going to help you understand and track where, if there is an incident, if there is an outage, what the impact is. It's going to help you stay connected to your key stakeholders and keep them aware of these things, and to track trends so that we can be prepared if we see that we're heading closer towards a critical threshold that's going to put us in the red. So this is a key way that we can make this more valuable and actionable to the business. And then finally, after a pandemic, after a crisis, when we sort of go back to normal, it's important to take some lessons learned. What went poorly that we can learn from and make some corrections in our portfolio or in our processes and the way that we manage things so that we're more responsive or better prepared for the next crisis. What went well, and how can we repeat that and leverage that in other ways, maybe even to deliver new capabilities that we weren't able to before, such as now that we have a more remote workforce, maybe there's ways that we can deliver additional value-add services that weren't possible when everybody was in the office. So this is a time that not only can we improve, but we can also drive business innovation through the advances that we've made managing the resiliency in this crisis. Now in the webinar today, we're going to focus on these key points throughout the demonstration and throughout the presentation. Obviously, there's a massive amount of data that may be required depending on the scope and the impact here. But the more we can do to help you automate that and crowdsource that, the better. We want to help you keep an eye on your technology obsolescence so that you can mitigate those risks and you can standardize and reduce the number of technologies for you to manage. Know what's critical so that you can focus and prioritize, know what the impacts are if something needs to be shut down or is abruptly shut down, to create reports and dashboards to put this information into the hands of your decision makers to make it self-service, and to also understand how we can help with the new target operating model. Now, when we work with the markets, whether it's the analysts, whether it's customers, whether it's prospects and other marketing activities, we like to keep an eye out, keep an ear out for what are the common challenges, what are the common themes, what's driving you to manage your portfolio, what brought you to the webinar today. So these are the most common themes that we see. whether you've got to stay focused on critical applications. Maybe you don't know what the business critical applications are. Maybe you have to reassign and manage better your bandwidth and your resources, or maybe you're going through a cloud migration, or need clarity on if there's a problem in the cloud, what can we move back on-prem in some cases. Many companies struggle with costs. Every year you're asked to do more with less, and bloated portfolios have opportunities for you to reduce your operating expense, and focus more money on innovation. But it's not just bloated portfolios, it's also complexity that makes it that much more expensive to implement new things, new projects, to deliver the kinds of change. So there's some app rationalization and other architecture use cases there that can help, of course. And then the sheer volume of technology that we manage, if we're not proactively managing standards, this can become unwieldy very quickly. And if you have a lot of technology, you might not have great control over it, or patching it. You might be exposing yourself to vulnerabilities. You've got aging technology, of course. Not only you're not getting updates that make it more stable and improve performance, of course, there's going to be more vulnerabilities there, more threats. So there's those that can create a number of problems. And that's why we want to reach out to you with this poll here. We're going to kick this off. But of these three most common themes, is there one that really stands out for you as to why you're here or why this is important to you today? Is it all of these? If it's none of them, let us know. Put it, there's in the questions bar on the GoToWebinar panel, you can provide some feedback. So if there's another theme that you're not seeing, feel free to add that there as well. And we'll give you a few seconds here to kick off the question. Is that poll in progress now? Okay, yeah, I just didn't see that pop up.
Hey, Dan, I just, yep, it's in progress. I'm watching the responses come in, and once we get a fair number of people, once most of the people on the webinar have voted, I will close it, and then I will publish the responses.
Perfect.
I'll just give everyone about 5 more seconds, and then I'm going to close the poll. All right, excellent. And I will share the results right now.
Okay, I see it. All right, so the number one choice here, focus on critical applications. That certainly is a very important thing, and I'm not surprised to see that here. I will say usually the most common response is all of the above. So I believe it's good to be focused. If there's a small number of problems that we can focus on, then we can provide more reasonable answers. If we're trying to take on too much, if we see every problem and try to solve it all at the same time, that can be very difficult. And of course, focusing on the critical applications is an important piece of the demonstration that we're going to show you later. So that's very good. I appreciate your feedback there. And we'll also keep an eye out for questions, or we'll keep an eye out in the question panel. If you had other thoughts that you'd like to share, happy to read those out and share them with the larger audience. Okay, so Elspeth, can you just confirm that is the audience seeing my screen again or the poll?
Nope, I just closed the poll, but I
need
just
to share my screen again.
Exactly. Yep, we just need to go to the slides. I'll let you know when I'm seeing them.
That's the one.
I am just, okay, yep, you're back on. Excellent.
All right. So those are the main themes that we often see, but there's a number of different challenges that we could be experiencing, whether you've grown through mergers and acquisitions, you might have a bloated application portfolio. Maybe you've got a over-reliance on legacy applications and some aging technology that means you have sort of this inflexibility to quickly respond to the business need. There's a number of IT-centric pains that you can see here, sort of in the this outer circle, but all these help contribute to some business pains as well, whether it's slow time to market or misalignments, or we're unable to support the business strategy. We're definitely exposing the business to added risk, and of course, our rising IT budgets impact our business budgets as well. So it's important for us to resolve these business pains. Resolve these IT-centric pains, so that we, one, don't contribute to these business pains, but also so we can help to deliver business value. So there is a real relationship here. Many organizations that take on this IT portfolio are only focused on the IT-centric pains, and we want to help elevate the work that you do, align it better to the business, and tell a better story of this business value to the business, so that they invest in you, because that's the real goal here. And my slides aren't advancing right now. There we go. So part of the problem, this misalignment that we see, enterprise architecture sort of has a bad rap. In some companies, it's a 4-letter word, because we've tried, we've failed, we've been focused on maybe the wrong things, and so many companies we've dealt with have tried and failed and are restarting and are trying to demonstrate that we can do this right and we can provide value. The problem with the old approach was it was too academic, too focused on governance and instead of guidance, being in the business of saying no, not yes, and here's how. So all the business saw was extra work, but not the value that they were expecting, and the value that we know that EA can provide. So in the last few years, we've been working with the analysts and the market and our customers to refocus on a more outcome-driven approach to enterprise architecture. That means repeatable use cases with a clear ROI, a measurable ROI. Follow these steps and get this result. We want to automate the data collection and the process as much as possible through out-of-the-box reports and workflows, and focus on delivering one use case and then expanding on that use case, and stacking use case after use case, rather than on collecting a bunch of data for the sake of collecting data. So this is sort of what I was saying before about putting the cart before the horse. We want to make sure that we are delivering the value through these use cases. And along the way, we're going to collect a lot of data, and it's going to be very valuable. Now, as we shift away from talking from the methodology to the, before we get into the demonstration, I have a few more slides here about the platform itself. Hopex is one piece of software, one end-to-end meta model that covers a number of different solution areas. We're going to be talking about IT portfolio management, which is a part of our enterprise architecture solution. But we also have solution areas around business process modeling, whether it's process analysis and re-engineering, or customer experience, or RPA. These are common use cases that we see today. Maybe data governance, data privacy, master data management, data lineage are very important and trending these days. And risk management is something that, frankly, we don't see enough of. The fact that risk management often happens in a vacuum or in a silo separate from the architecture. This is something that we've felt strongly for years needs to merge together. And we have a platform that allows you to connect all of these different, potentially disparate processes of one central meta model, so that we can do impact analysis across all these different perspectives. And even if you have different specialized tools that do any one of these areas, we can integrate with them, which I'll talk about more in the next slide. But it's important that if you can aggregate that data to bring it together, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, and we want to help enable that. Now, integrating, as I said, is very important for two reasons. One, to help automate this data collection. One of the challenges enterprise architects have experienced in the past is it's just too much data. I don't have the resources to collect that, let alone maintain that over time. But there are many integration points that we can help to pull in trusted source of truth and limit the amount of data that you need to manually maintain. CMDBs like ServiceNow or Remedy are our two most common integration points. We also have catalogs of information like Flexera and their Technopedia catalog, just a mountain of information that you don't have to maintain, that you can just leverage and align to your portfolio. But there's a number of different systems and operational data that we can pull in and then enrich with more of the logical architectural dependencies. And the second use case is sharing the information. making it actionable and self-service through reports and dashboards, which we'll see, but also sending it to other downstream systems of record. So you might want to do your strategic planning here and then feed that into strategic delivery tools like Jira and Confluence. You might want to send some of these architectural dependencies downstream to ServiceNow so that if there is an outage, that they're aware of the people and process impacts that maybe they wouldn't be aware of previously. So there are a number of different ways, there's a number of different tools that we integrate with both out of the box as well as with our RESTful web services and ETL capabilities. But it's just not in the nature of EA for this to happen in a vacuum, and we want to we continue to make it easier and easier for you to connect with other systems. But you can't discover everything. There is a human element here. Layering in some of the more logical things that we can't discover, and no tool is ever going to discover what the target state is for you. So to that end, we have a very easy to use web-based browser. It's all HTML5. There's nothing to install, nothing Flash or anything. It's any old browser will do. So whether you're on Mac or PC, whether you're deployed in our cloud or on-prem, the user experience is the same. And not only do we have architect-centric roles, we also have data steward-centered roles and some out-of-the-box collaboration features to help you crowdsource this information. The more you can rely on this decentralized data collection to keep this data up to date, the more your portfolio managers and your architects can focus on value-add activities, which is very important. So that is what you're going to see here today. Rashi will present through our web browser. And then finally, my last slide here, your architects and your data stewards, they are a core part of the platform. They're not the only users, though. This is not meant to be a platform just for the architects. We want to make this data actionable and self-serviceable for your stakeholders, for your executives. We've got dashboards, reports. If we tap into operational metrics, we can layer that information in as well and provide some very important insights, really. It's not just sharing the data, but the insights and the impacts so that we can make better decisions faster. That's the end goal. That's what we want to help you achieve. And I'm going to pass things over here to Rashi so she can show you how.
All right, wonderful, Dan. Thank you so much. Rashi, I am making you the presenter right now so that you can begin the demo.
Perfect. Just give me 1 second.
Sure.
And let me know when you guys can see my screen.
Okay, excellent. We can hear you and you have your screen up.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Elspeth, for the introduction. My name is Rashi, and I'll be walking us through the Hopex platform today. I just wanted to mention that I am actually using Chrome right now, so that's my web browser of preference, but any web browser can do, just like Dan mentioned. Let's just go into full screen mode. Before we get into some of the ways that Hopex can help you manage your resiliency in a crisis today, I wanted to just introduce you to the Hopex platform itself. You'll notice that we use a tile-based approach to really help make the UI and experience of every person logging into the platform seamless and easy to use. So you'll see me using these different tiles as well as the search bar at the top and your standard left-hand navigation menu to be able to navigate the repository to really help us pull out our key use cases today. So we're going to be talking about a few different use cases. The first is going to be on how can we actually build that application inventory and really automate the process of bringing in your data so that you can begin to understand the dependencies between critical applications and those supporting technologies. What you're seeing in front of you right now are folders of different rationalization projects. You can consider them or improvement projects. And each folder has its own inventory of applications that are in scope. So this is one way that you're able to define the scope and the context of the work that you're trying to do. Now, in every library of Hopex, you will get access to a variety of metadata that's available right here, kind of like in an Excel format. You'll see we had some expense information. And if I scroll over to the right, you'll see I have a few different assessment metrics as well, like technology compliance, business value, functional support, and technical efficiency. Now we're going to see what these different values and assessment types can help us understand about our applications, but I also wanted to mention that when you are using Hopex, you're not actually having to relearn how to use a tool because Hopex leverages a lot of the intuitive design that you're already familiar with in your everyday life. For example, predictive text and being able to type what you're looking for and have Hopex simply filter for that. So really, these are just standard ways of interacting with your data, and Hopex doesn't take that away from you. Dan also mentioned that there are several collaborative tools that are available for you to use when trying to work with your teammates on the Hopex platform to really get the work done. The first type of collaborative tool that I would like to introduce to you is something known as review notes. I'd like to think of this as a place where you have sticky notes or a whiteboard that allows you to not only track who is asking for certain pieces of information, but what that response was, and then follow an informal governance process in which a green check mark indicates that the work has actually been done and it's validated. This is really a great place to start tracking some of that tribal audit history that would get lost in conversations or emails. But you also have a full-blown governance workflow that allows you to really create that baseline for your application inventory so that you can start running your analysis, leveraging with full knowledge that the work that you're doing has been approved by everyone that's involved. And lastly, it's very important for us to be able to track the audit history of what is actually happening within the environment for this particular application. So if you wanted to track all of the changes that happened last year, or perhaps since the inception of this particular application, you have the access to all of this information right here in Hopex. There's no external queries or another place that you have to go to be able to extract this particular information. So let's go ahead and actually take a look at some of the key pieces of metadata that are available for this particular application. So I'm just coming over to the characteristics bar, and here you'll notice that we're going to have about 15 to 20 key attributes that we're going to be tracking and really just managing that information around them. So you'll notice that there's a name for your application. You have some information about the application type. If versioning is important, then we can maintain the version numbers and cloud computing information. And then obviously a comments field where you can maintain just some more of the contextual narrative of what is this application trying to do. In the functional scope area of your ID card for every single application, this is where you're going to start really understanding the first level of who or what will be impacted if something changes with this particular application. Out of the box, Hopex lets you manage this impact from a business line, business process, business capability, and an implemented functionality perspective. But with all things Hopex, you do have the ability to enhance these attributes and to add other areas of impact that are necessary for you to manage. So we can see that the functional scope for this particular application tells us which processes are going to get impacted, as well as which capabilities are going to get impacted because they are leveraging this particular application. Now, towards the end of the demo today, we're going to look at a report that kind of brings all of this information together in a visual format. I also wanted to mention that you have the ability to track the technologies that are underpinning this particular application. As Dan mentioned, we do have a tie-in with Flexera, so you don't have to maintain this information manually or even within your company. It's a third-party tie-in that we can do that helps you maintain all of this information. We also have the ability to track all of the exchanged flows between the billing application and other applications, and I'm going to show you how this tabular data can become visualized through an ARC report. And just so you know, you also have the ability to manage those risks, like Dan mentioned. If that was necessary for your use case, you can do it right here from the application perspective itself. So let's take a look at one of our first reports. This report is known as the Application Environment Graph Report, and it presents to us three specific contexts. The first context is from the world of billing, what information is being sent or received to what applications. So really, here's your first set of impact information. You are able to see the content that is being exchanged, as well as who is receiving that information. So we automatically know if there is a project or initiative to enhance the billing application, CRM Europe, report generation, and booking management are all in scope for being impacted. Before we move on, I'd like to mention that this particular report is not something that you had to create manually. It is being rendered based off of all of the metadata that you have put into the Hopex platform, either through an integration with a CMDB or through an Excel file upload. If we scroll just a little bit lower, here you're going to start seeing the relationship between the billing application and the different installations of it. So we see that the billing application has an installation in Europe, in Asia, and those are and in US. So we have 3 different versions or installations of this particular applications being utilized by different departments or organizational units. So here we can understand that if the billing application in Europe is going to have a new project or needs to be managed for some particular reason, you have these 5 different departments that are going to get impacted, and you will need to make sure that there's a contingency in place to help mitigate that. The last report that I want to show you here is simply a complete functional scope of our billing application. So what that basically means is you are able to understand not only what business lines are going to get impacted, but if there are processes or capabilities or technologies that are going to get impacted by any changes made to this particular application. So really, you're able to get your whole impact scope presented to you in a visualized manner that's kind of easier to read often than a table or a report could be. Let's take a look at one more report. What you're seeing in front of you is a Gantt chart. Now, this Gantt chart is really designed to help you understand 2 key pieces of information and their relationship. First, you want to know what is the life cycle of your application. So in this case, the billing life cycle for preparation, production, and retirement spans about 10 years. Now, within that time period, we know that the application billing is going to be using 3 key pieces of technology: the .NET framework, an IIS, and a Windows server. Sometimes this information, the technology that the application is going to be using, can have different lifecycle information than our application itself. And if there's a conflict, then Hopex will render that information for you so you can begin to understand what's exactly happening here. So if we hover over the conflict period, we'll see that towards the end of the production cycle for the billing application, we're going to be using a retired technology, which is the .NET Framework 4.0. So this tells us that there is some work here that we're going to need to do, either use the .NET Framework 5 or put some other technology in place to make sure that we are not, that we are properly mitigating this conflict period. So really it helps you understand, is this a risk that you're willing to take, or is this a risk that you need to go ahead and mitigate using some sort of a program or a project. I'll also mention that with Hopex, you are able to integrate and get the lifecycle information, so the industry standard lifecycle information for all of your technologies, but you can maintain an internal standard as well. So by maintaining an internal lifecycle, maybe we want to be able to push the support out for the .NET framework and therefore override this conflict period. So you have a few different ways of managing that. If we move along in our narrative today, the second use case that we really want to focus on is the link between capabilities and applications. So what you're going to see in front of you right now is a capability map. And your capability map is going to be a space where you're able to understand the relationship between not only the scope of this particular capability map, in this case it's our 2B capability map, but also the different levels that are available. So if you had a 4-level capability map, you would be able to see all of those different capabilities stacked up. Here we're seeing the relationship between the exchange capability and its sub-capabilities of customer request and provider requests. Now, if I actually went ahead and made this capability unfolded, what you would notice within the capability report itself are applications that are tied and therefore impacting certain capabilities. But more than that, you would actually get all of the assessment information for this particular application as well. Now, what do I mean when I say assessment information? We saw a few moments ago that in the library, you can capture assessment information for technological obsolescence, application cost, business value, and functional support. Now, I'm showing you 3 out of 4 assessments here, but if you wanted to see all 4 assessment types, you could do that. And the way you would read this capability map is, if we took the example of CRM Europe, the colored value tells us that the business value for CRM Europe is good. When it comes to application cost, we see that the application cost for CRM Europe is low. And when it comes to the technical obsolescence, we know that this particular application is in its rolling year, slowly but surely approaching to be existing in obsolescence. So really from one quick report, you're able to distill a lot of information that helps you understand what are the key applications that you will need to focus on if there were changes that were going to be made to a particular capability. So really when you take this kind of a report and you start combining it with cost and lifecycle information, you're going to get a complete picture of what you have in your repository and how these different points can come together to inform the direction that you need to go in your projects. Let's take a few more reports that can help us monitor our resiliency. The first is going to be an application obsolescence report. So here you're going to see 2 tables. The first table is going to tell you what are the applications that are going to go into retirement in the next floating year. So what this basically means is, here are the applications that are approaching retirement. Here are the other applications that they're connected to, the capabilities that they're connected to, the business lines that they're connected to. Now, this kind of a report helps you understand the impact of your particular application in context to the rest of your organization, so that you really understand that as this application is going to be retired, here are the places that I need to start doing some work. The second table helps you see the applications that are using a technology that's going to go obsolete. So here we have our technologies that are going obsolete. We can see what applications they're connected to, as well as when is that obsolescence date. Again, just really informing us of the contextualization for when and why this work needs to be done. These are just 2 versions of how we can matrix or table out this information to understand the relationship. But with Hopex, you also have the ability to create report data sets that can bring together different pieces of information in a very similar view. But again, those different pieces would focus specifically on what you're interested in. So let's take a few more examples of reports that can help you just monitor and manage that resiliency. This report here shows you application by total cost of ownership. You have the ability to manage your cost information in 4 perspectives: manpower, infrastructure, software, license, and service. But again, these 4 designations for cost are out of the box, but you do have the ability to add other types of attributes and manage costs from that perspective. And then this report will help you understand what those costs look like through the years. Again, just a reminder, you're not manually putting this information in. There are tie-ins that we can do leveraging APIs to pull all of this information for you. A similar report is total cost of ownership by business line. Here you're able to see the different parts of your business and the costs that are associated with running those particular business lines. You can also see that we have some empty data here, so we also understand where is some of the work that needs to be done. A third report that is often very important is the vendor dependency report. Here you can see that 23% of our applications use some sort of a Microsoft technology. So we want to understand that if there was something that was changing with our relationship with a particular vendor, what would be the applications that are going to be in question? This helps us gather the information from that particular perspective. Your dashboard, which is where I am right now, is a space where you can add reports like this and many more to really be able to track all of this information without having to navigate to various parts of the repository. So it really makes it easy for you to keep a pulse on your organization and manage your resiliency in a crisis. I'm going to end with one last report today. And in this report, we're really just going to be able to understand what is the entire universe of our applications. So as you can see, if I zoom out, there are many applications that are present here that are both not connected and connected with one another. If I go ahead and move this report into a 3D format, what we're going to be able to do is really start understanding where our pockets are. Now, when I say pockets, I'm really talking about nexuses of applications that are connected that are going to be something that we're interested in understanding, how they are related, what is the impact, and what is the information that we have to manage. That is my demonstration for you today. And at this point, I'm going to hand the screen back to Dan so that we can go ahead and wrap up the webinar.
Excellent. Thank you, Rashi. And just as I am making Dan the presenter, would you just let everybody know, are all the things that you demoed today available in Mega's latest version of Hopex, Hopex v4?
Yes, absolutely. Everything you saw today is out of the box and available in v4.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. And Dan, I made you the presenter, and you're showing your next screen, your next slide.
All right. Thanks, Rashi. So just to recap, these are the main points that we looked at in the demonstration today. Hopefully you saw how you can bring better visibility into your IT assets and identify the most critical applications, mitigate technology risks, and other types of impact analysis and reports that Rashi showed. I also wanted to let you know that this is really just a teaser, sort of a crash course. We have links on our website that you can either request a free trial or a demonstration. We're happy to take some time with you, go a little bit deeper on your specific needs and do a custom demo for you and or trial. So feel free to reach out to us either via email or on our website. We can even import in some of your own data so you can see this with something a little bit more realistic that might resonate with you better than some demo data that we have here. So let us know if there's anything that we can do to further your evaluation. And then in the remaining minutes, we wanted to address any questions that you had. So as a reminder, on the GoToWebinar panel, you should see a section for putting out some questions. I see a couple of questions there, and some of them we've responded to via the chat. But if there are specific anything that you'd like us to cover in the remaining minutes here, feel free to add some additional thoughts there.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Dan. So like Dan said, please put your questions into the questions box. One we just got, we have, do you have a webinar scheduled for data governance? At the moment, we do not. We are right now kind of mapping out 2021. We will absolutely put that into, as we're road mapping and figuring out, what we're doing when. We will definitely take that into consideration. But right now, we don't have any webinars in there yet for 2021. But we will be rolling that out very soon. All right, Dan and Rashi, here come some other questions for you. Let me see. Are there any certification for the Hopex tool as a practitioner?
Yeah, this is something that we've been working on in 2020 and continue to work on our e-learning capabilities and certifications as we expand our partner network. but also to extend this to our customers as well. So we've made some improvements here. Some is already available, some is coming out in the near term as well. So I don't have specifics. I wasn't actively working on that project, but I'm aware of it and know that we have some things to offer there.
Excellent. Thank you, Dan. Next question. How does all the color-coded legend on business capability get populated? Is this work I need to do, or does the import from CMDB take care of this?
So that's a good question. The color coding there was based off of sometimes it's qualitative metrics, sometimes it's quantitative metrics. So if we can pull in some operational data, maybe some from your CMDB, maybe it's number of incidents, or maybe number of tickets, or maybe it's something that you need to send out a survey to assess, like what is the real value or the health or performance of this application. We have some integrations with like a Cast Highlight, for example. If you have homegrown systems and need, some code scanning can produce some great metrics to layer into your portfolio. But whatever the metric, whether it's qualitative or quantitative, we set a scale, and you pick on that heat map what metrics do you want to see. You can have each application assessed with multiple criteria at a time. You can even color code and assess the capabilities as well. So if you highlight the most important capabilities by whatever metrics are important, and then layer in the appropriate metrics to help you understand not only what applications support those capabilities, but how well, or depending on what your pains are, what's the cost versus the benefit, what are the number of impacts if we have an outage. Those are all kinds of metrics that I've seen. So it really depends on the kind of data you have available and what insights are you trying to glean from that kind of heat map. But there's a lot of flexibility there in terms of what you feed into it and what you can get out of it.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Dan. Let's see, our next question. Can you explain a little bit more how Mega's Hopex helps eliminate redundant applications?
Yeah, so there's a couple different ways that we can look at this. At a very high level, aligning your apps to your business capabilities can start to give us some insights, but that might not be sufficient. Sometimes the same capability might be supported by multiple applications in different business units or in different geographies, and that's by design. Maybe that's not, maybe we need that redundancy due to specific requirements, which is why we also have capabilities to refine that and also look at, we call them functionalities, but they're essentially IT capabilities. For that business capability, what does the business need from IT, functionally speaking? Not what application or technology, but they need to print, they need to manage bills, they need to manage customers, and even link explicit requirements to that. So if we generate matrices from our app portfolio that show how well we support specific, not just the capabilities, but explicit functionality and requirements within that context, and maybe even layer into that the organizational or business units or other sort of cross dimensions that we have in our examples, that can help us identify better what applications are redundant, or if we have gaps in which applications we should enhance to better support the needs of the business. This is a more architectural view, a little deeper view, to help you with your app rationalization than maybe what you saw here in the demonstration today, but certainly something that we can help do on the platform. The other is, of course, health assessment metrics, like what's the business value, the functional health, the technical health. Knowing that they are redundant, or that these two applications do the same thing, doesn't help you pick which is the right application to invest in. So there's other metrics that you might look to help guide your analysis. And we have some reports that not only share that, but also make recommendations, like the Gartner time model. What should you tolerate? What should you invest? We have some similar views to that out of the box.
Okay, Dan, thank you. A couple of questions came in on cloud initiatives, but basically they're kind of asking the same thing. How can I assess the cloud readiness of our portfolio with your solution?
Now, you may have seen in the portfolio level view, it shows you some aggregated attributes and analysis that we've done in our applications. Some of those, well, of course, you can add your own columns to that view, add your own metrics that are important for you to track. But specifically in the context of cloud readiness, there's certain things that we want to see, like what are the number of integration points that this application has? If it's connected to 30, 40 applications, that's going to be a lot of work to move to the cloud. What's the sensitivity of that data, and are we okay putting it in the cloud? Are there viable options? There's so many other metrics that we can use, including what's the total cost of ownership? How much are we spending on infrastructure today on these in-house applications? So if we use metrics like that in our portfolio view and layer that into the heat maps and other reports that you see, it'll help you identify some of the low-hanging fruit. What's quick and easy for us to move into the cloud versus what's the most impactful, but maybe it's going to take us longer to get there. So, some of the core systems, some of the highly integrated systems. So it's identifying those things and then start planning out the projects and the initiatives to get us there. It's not a short effort, but you need to like with the resiliency project that we talked about, you need to focus on what's critical, what's easy what's low impactful that can be a quick win, but what's most impactful that you want to plan towards in a safe and scalable way.
Okay, excellent, Dan. Thank you. We have this one last question, and then I think we'll probably wrap it up unless anything else comes in. So a two-part question. The first part is how quick is the onboarding? What is onboarding like, and how quickly, basically, is that process? And then the second part of the question is how long does it take from start to basically start seeing data like what Rashi was showing?
Well, it depends on where you start, because the purchasing process, if you currently don't have a tool to just to get a tool in-house, sometimes takes 9 to 12 months. Procurement cycles are pretty long, but once you have purchased a tool, we've got some consulting services, of course, but methodologies and sort of packages to help you get up and running very quickly. We want to be talking weeks, not months. Before the data is in and immediately providing value, and we want a positive ROI for certain within the first year, but ideally within the first months. So we call it a quick start at Mega. That initial project, it's a standard methodology, a standard framework for engaging with you, and it scales up or down depending on your needs, but it's a common approach. And from both a platform perspective and a services delivery perspective, I'll call back to one of those earlier slides about outcome-driven EA. If we shift the focus to the use cases, it's not about the platform is an enabler of that, but it's more about the practice, and it's more about delivering value through those use cases, and it's meant to be as turnkey and quick and easy to roll out as possible. So if we do it right, in 3 to 4 weeks, you should be up and running with your data and showing value. And in 3 to 4 months, you should be experiencing some positive ROI. And we've got some case studies and things like that we can share as well.
Great, Dan. And this question kind of piggybacks right on the one I just asked you. Do you integrate best practices that can be leveraged during onboarding?
Oh, for sure. That's we use sort of a two-pronged approach to training, which involves sort of a vanilla, here's how to leverage the platform to do your work, but also guided workshops, actively working on your artifacts, on your work with you to instill some of those best practices. So that's there in the delivery with the consultants, but that's also there in our engagement with you through our customer success, right? So there is a focus on partnering with you. We don't just see ourselves as a software vendor in this space or as a services delivery group in this space. We want to partner with you for success. We want to be an advisor and challenge you to grow and expand and to get the most, not out of the platform, but out of your practice. We want to turn you into champions for the business.
Excellent. Well put. I couldn't have said it better. Dan and Rashi, thank you so much for a great job presenting today. That was really really well done. And the biggest thank you, of course, goes to all of our attendees. We thank you so much. We know that we are into the holiday season. It's a busy time for everyone. A lot is going on in the world. So we really want to say thank you very, very much for taking some time out of your day and joining us. The recording of this webinar will be shared with all registrants. So whether you were able to come today or maybe you registered and couldn't make it, either way, everybody who registered is going to get a recording of this webinar probably by this afternoon. And also we will keep everyone up to date on all of our events and webinars, both live and in person in 2021. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up, say thank you again to our presenters. Thank you so much to all of our attendees, and we wish you a wonderful rest of the day. Bye, everyone.